This video was made possible thanks to the support of our amazing patrons. We couldn't do this without you.
Don't forget that you can support the channel for free and receive 10% off orders over $10 at Flipside Gaming by using the promo code Affinity at the checkout. Or if TCG Player or Magic Madhouse are more your thing, then be sure to place your order through our affiliate links in the description. Once again, at no extra cost to yourselves. Hello everyone and welcome back to Affinity for Commander. My name is Alec and today we are looking at the most popular commander of the last 2 years according to EDHrec.com. And that commander is Muldrotha the Gravetide. She is without doubt one of the most powerful and versatile commanders that has probably ever been printed. And one of the most fun commanders ever printed if you just want to play around with your graveyard. I'm sorry, who the hell are you? Me? I'm Casual Alex, and we are all here for about interactions, fun, and making commanders on a budget. Okay then. Well, for us proper players, let's get into why Muldrotha is such a powerful commander. So Muldrotha is a 6/6 avatar for 3 generic mana, 1 black, 1 blue, and 1 green, and she's also a 6/6. And she reads, during each of your turns, you may play a land card and cast a permanent spell of each permanent type from your graveyard. Now, being able to return any type of permanent from our graveyard once a turn essentially means our yard gets to double as a second hand, one that we get to cultivate and sculpt throughout the game. And it also makes sure that we don't ever lose any of our creatures, because, they need love too. Now, normally I'd recommend the bread and butter of Cultivate and Kodama's Reach. However, these cards are not permanents. So instead, let's look to other cards such as Birds of Paradise, Deathrite Shaman, and the Dryad of Ilsean Grove. Permanents that, if destroyed, can be brought back to continue to help us ramp into the late game, or just be used as blockers. And I would like to touch on the Dryad for just a moment, as with cards like them, as well as the Oracle of Moldiah and Azusa Lost But Seeking, provided we have Muldrotha out and a single land in the bin, then we can just continually replay it over and over again, especially if it's a fetch land. After all, deck thinning is deck winning. Yeah, we've got ways of grabbing lands too. Springbloom Oracle grabs 2 lands the price of 1. We've got the Evergreen Stee. Or what even about Burnished Heart? A card that sees play across all colours, and with Muldrotha out, we can use it to grab it as our artifact for turn. So then we can also grab Stee as well, and ramp even better. And with the Springbloom, the land we sacrifice, we can also grab that back with Muldrotha as well. So now that we've ramped, let's talk about some creatures to put into this deck to make use of all that mana. My first obvious pick would be Sidisi Undead Vizier, a card that can sacrifice anything, already good for Muldrotha, but is then a recurable tutor spell. And the death touch is also pretty nice. This, in the same spirit of cards such as Razaketh the Foul-Blooded, again an instant speed sack outlet that can shoot up any card we want in a tight spot. Or, if we're just looking to outvalue our opponents, then Uro Titan of Nature's Wrath lets us growth spiral every single turn. Or, if we're really head up for creatures, then having him escape and having a 6/6 is also pretty nice. Yeah, but you don't need to be richer than Mr. Bill Gates to be able to tutor a card into your yard. Gravebreaker Lamia is a great recent printing that can do just that, and it makes all cards that we cast from the grave all the cheaper. But mainly we're going to want small creatures, as we want to be casting them as well as things from our hand. So Baleful Strix, Caustic Caterpillar, or Muldrifter to draw us cards. And in fact, the last 2 really help us out because they get to sacrifice themselves to be able to be replayed. And if other people's boards are doing you a bit of a concern, then you can play creatures like Ravenous Chupacabra, Fleshbag Marauder, Merciless Executioner, or Plaguecrafter, to either destroy them or have to make them sacrifice them, which again, you can bring back yourself later. Well, how about that? I actually totally agree with you. Having our opponents sacrifice at least one, if not two creatures a turn is pretty good value, and gets on annoying things like hexproof. Yes, Narset, I am looking at you. But why not throw this ability into overdrive with Sheoldred the Whispering One, a card that makes our opponents sack a creature in each of their upkeeps, and should it wheel back around to us, then we get to bring back anything we want from our graveyard for free. And I would also be remiss if talking about reanimation if we didn't also mention including another powerful commander in this deck in Merrin of Clan Nel Toth. We're going to be sacrificing our creatures left, right and centre, so why not make use of Merrin's experience counters to bring back anything we want? And should our shaman also happen to bite it, then we can just bring her back as well. But Muldrotha isn't just limited to creatures, oh my, Urza, no. So let's look at the other permanent types that we can abuse. Now with enchantments, we want the kind that can be played over and over again. So we've got cards like Unbridled Growth and Omen of the Sea are great low mana card draw, and with Seekers of the Dead out, we get to draw every time we play something from the grave. Yes, card draw is all very well and good, but what about card tutoring? A card that I have seen criminally underplayed recently is Defense of the Heart, a recurable tutor spell on an enchantment. This card is great, and just being able to grab any combo piece or answer you need at the right moment, perfect. Hey, we've got answers too. We can play cards like Kashima or Kenwith's Transformation on any hard to deal with creatures that have problematic keywords, like on those Eldrazi. That way, if they even sacrifice or get rid of their own creature, then we can play that enchantment again from our graveyard. Well, I once again must be having a stroke, because it turns out I agree with you again. Enchantment removal is the tops right now, but I would personally recommend Imprisoned in the Moon and Song of the Dryads. These to me seem much better options because they can target multiple permanent types. Yeah, you got more options, but Artifacts is where the budget brand shines. Executioner's Capsule for solid removal, Expedition Map and Wayfarer's Bauble for great ramp opportunities. Or Desecrated Tomb gives us a great amount of creature advantage, especially since we can only really cast one creature from our grave a turn. But now it comes with a bat. But if we have fallen behind people on the whole creature game, then we can use Nevin Neeral's Disc to be able to reset the board in our favour, because now we can once again replay all our lost creatures from the grave using Muldrotha's ability. Aren't you also going to recommend the Spell Bombs? They're cheap and they draw a card, and Nihil Spell Bomb deals with other people's graveyards. Well, I mean, doesn't that kind of seem hypocritical considering we're using our graveyard? I don't know why I bother with you sometimes. But if we're looking for actual value artifacts, I've got you covered. Phyrexian and Ashnod's Altar are great ways to sacrifice our creatures to be brought back later and can generate us all the mana we need. And speaking of sacrificing creatures, Birthing Pod, much like leather jackets, will never go out of style because they always do the thing you need, which is either looking incredibly cool or grabbing whatever you want from your library at sorcery speed, provided it meets the fine print on Birthing Pod. Hey, we've got one of those. What? Yeah, Prime Speaker Vanifar. I know she's not in the right section, but she does the same thing as Birthing Pod, and for a fraction of the cost. Ah, we're cheating now. Prime Speaker Vanifar is not budget. Nope, she's now 175. 175? But she's CDH playable. How the mighty have fallen. Well, I suppose we should just move on to the lands then. Now, as for lands for this deck, they need to have one keyword on them, and that is sacrifice. So yes, all the fetch lands. Yes, even the off-color fetch lands. Being able to bring back that fetch every single turn with Muldrotha and never miss a land drop and thin your deck. Poetry. Beautiful. Can't ask for anything more. Especially if we've got any of these cards out, like I mentioned earlier. Bring back a fetch, cracking it and shredding your deck of any fetchable lands just means the odds of you drawing into pure gas just go up and up every single turn. But we can also find value in cards that aren't fetch lands, such as Phyrexian Tower that lets us sacrifice a creature for 2 black mana, so when we are done with that Baleful Strix, we can fob it off, get 2 black mana, and then replay it again for that sweet card draw. This is also similar with Lotus Field that can sacrifice 2 lands that might have ETBs that we might want to reoccur once more. And a personal favourite of mine is High Market, which, yes, granted, doesn't really accelerate us mana-wise, but it is a sack outlet, and the gaining of 1 life is pretty nice. Yeah, well, over here we've got ramp and fetches too. Terramorphy Expanse and Evolving Wilds. Oh honey, no. And we can use most of the panoramas to grab out any land we want as well, then replay them later. Oh sweet Urza. Or what about Myriad Landscape that grabs 2 basics directly from our deck? But it comes in tapped though! Or my personal favourite, Ash Barrens, because you can discard it for any colour that you're in desperate need of, because it only requires colours to cycle, and you can then play it from your yard later if you really have no other options. You know I've got nothing to say about that. Ash Barrens is actually a good card. See, you'll come around eventually. So, now let's look at how we're going to close out the game. Now, of course, the quickest and easiest way to win a game in EDH is an infinite combo, of which the bread and butter is typically something like Mikaeus and Triskelion. 2 cards will work quite well with Muldrotha, given that Mikaeus gives a lot of value to our sacrificing of creatures, and Triskelion is, well, Triskelion. But given the fact that we have a creature and an artifact, that means that we can replay them in the same turn using Muldrotha's ability. Or if you're really looking to splash some cash, then using the Lion's Eye Diamond, Phantasmal Urge, and any animation enchantment can net you infinite coloured mana, infinite Gravestorm triggers, and infinite Storm triggers. And you can then end the game using your favourite massive black or blue spell, or any Gravestorming card. In fact, our friends over at the Spike Feeders did an excellent video explaining this combo and how to interact with it over on their channel, so if you need a refresher, be sure to check that out. But I would be remiss and probably suspected of being a clone sent to replace the real Alex if I didn't also suggest one of my favourite win conditions, which is Triumph of the Hordes. We are playing loads and loads of teeny tiny creatures with incremental value, but being able to give them all +1/+1 and trample and infect, that is a fantastic way of closing out the game. Or if you want to get invited back to Commander next week, then you can use cards with overrun type effects like Pathbreaker Ibex, Endrace Forerunners, or, well, Overrun. Plus, if we've got a way out to sacrifice our forerunning boars, then next turn we get to play them again to get an additional trigger. How cool is that? Or you could just run Craterhoof. Just saying. But however you decide to build this big old avatar gravy gal, make sure that you do so with the love of the commander and do it for the fun experience of coming together and playing Commander. And don't worry about the bank or the value, just do it so that you enjoy it and the people around you can also have fun. I actually agree with you. We hope you have fun and make your deck the way you want. And we also, as always, hope that our suggestions have at least been a little bit helpful to you. And that is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching, guys. What's the card that you would personally indulge in Muldrotha? Or what's your favourite card for any Grave-style deck? Put them in the comments below. As always, before you run off, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for some more excellent Commander content. And you can follow us on Twitter @4Commander, or if you really like the channel, please consider supporting us on Patreon for some more excellent Commander related rewards. As always, I've been Alex, and I will see you next time.